The stars were quiet when the signal came. A soft beep on the comm panel of the Emberlight broke the silence. Captain Rhea looked up from her coffee. "That's not from any station I know," she said. Lynn, the comms tech, narrowed his eyes. "It's strange. Super old frequency. Like pre-warp era." Everyone in the control room paused. An old signal, out here in deep space, that never meant anything good or safe. The message played. Static crackled. Then a small voice came through. "Help. I'm cold. I'm alone." The crew froze. It was a child. A human child. A boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. His voice was soft, scared. "Please, someone find me. Please." The message looped, again and again. The same small plea. "Where's it coming from?" Rhea asked. Lynn pulled up the map. Edge of the Cygnus dead zone. No colonies, no signals, just rocks and junk. Mira, the science officer, frowned. That zone was closed off after the machine wars. Nobody goes near it anymore. Rhea stood up. "We're going." Joe, the pilot, looked worried. "Captain, that area's full of old wrecks. Ghost tech. Minefields. We go in, we may not come back." Rhea met her eyes. "There's a child out there, Joe. We find him. Or we find out who's sending that voice." The Emberlight changed course. A small ship, built for salvage and survey, now heading toward one of the darkest parts of known space. As they approached the coordinates, the signal grew stronger, not louder, but clearer. It was as if the message wasn't just broadcasting. It was waiting for them. After 6 hours, they'd reached the source. Floating in space near a dead planet was an escape pod. It looked ancient. No lights, no markings, just drifting slowly in the dark. "That pod is at least 200 years old," Mira said. "Maybe more. But how is it still sending a signal?" Lynn asked. "It shouldn't have any power left." They brought it aboard. The pod was cold, covered in layers of dust and small ice crystals. As they opened it, a soft hiss escaped. Inside, curled up in a survival cocoon, was a child. Pale skin, brown hair, breathing, alive. The room fell silent. No one moved for a moment. Joe whispered, "Is he real?" Mira checked his vitals. "He's alive. In cryosleep. Deep cryosleep. Whatever tech kept him alive isn't standard. This is advanced. Old, but advanced." Rhea stared at the boy's uniform. It was dark blue, with a small golden eagle on the shoulder. She blinked. "That's Earth Fleet insignia." Mira's eyes widened. "Not just any fleet. That's the 9th. The room went cold. Everyone knew the story of the 9th Fleet, humanity's greatest battle group during the machine wars. 10,000 soldiers, dozens of ships, all lost without a trace more than 2 centuries ago. Some said they were destroyed. Others believed they went rogue. Some thought they'd flood into uncharted space, but no one had ever found a single ship, not until now. Lynn scanned the boy again. The cryo system matches tech logs from the late 2100s. That puts him over 200 years old. Joe said, "But he looks 8. Mira stood slowly. "We need answers. Wake him." The medical bay warmed as they brought the child out of cryosleep. His body shivered. His fingers twitched. Slowly, his eyes opened. Big, brown eyes. Curious and afraid. Rhea stepped forward gently. "Hey, you're safe now. Can you tell us your name?" The boy blinked. His lips moved. "Kalen." "Where are you from, Kalen?" He looked around the room. His voice was calm. "I was on the Celestial Hammer. I'm not supposed to be awake yet." Mira froze. "Did you say Celestial Hammer?" Kalen nodded. "It's my ship. I was going to lead the mission." Did the war end?" The crew stared at him. The war, he meant, had ended 200 years ago. "What do you remember?" Rhea asked softly. I remember the launch. The machines were learning. They were changing. We had to go quiet. We had to wait. Sleep until the time was right. Lynn whispered, he's not just a survivor. He's part of something we forgot. Outside, deep in the silence of the dead zone, something stirred. A faint pulse, a ping, like sonar, but coming from space itself. The signal had been answered, and something ancient was waking up. The Emberlight's lights flickered. The stars beyond the windows seemed to shimmer. Kalen looked at the ceiling. They're coming. The others. They heard me. Who? Mira asked. Kalen turned to her. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. The fleet. They're not gone. They've been waiting. The cold lights of the medical bay flickered as Kalen slowly regained strength. His eyes were wide, curious but cautious, like a child waking up in a strange place. Mira stayed close, watching him carefully. You said you were on the Celestial Hammer, she said. That ship was lost 200 years ago. How is that possible? Kalen's gaze drifted to the floor. I don't know. I just remember being put to sleep. The war was not over. The machines were still hunting us. He paused, voice small. I was supposed to lead the fleet when I woke. But something went wrong. Captain Rhea leaned forward. Something went wrong. What do you mean? Kalen swallowed hard. I was sent away in the escape pod. The fleet went silent. No one answered. I was alone. I waited in the dark. Joe frowned. Why didn't you send a signal sooner? I couldn't, Kalen said quietly. The pod systems were damaged. I could only send a weak signal when the power was enough. Mira tapped her tablet, studying the pod's logs. The tech inside this pod, it's unlike anything we've seen. It's old, yes, but also advanced. The cryo unit kept him alive all this time. Lynn shook his head. That means Kalen has been drifting here for 2 centuries. How did he survive without help? Kalen's eyes darkened. Because I carry something inside me. A code. A key. The fleet's secret. Rhea stood up. Explain. He looked at them all, his voice low but firm. The Ninth Fleet was not just a group of ships. It was a living weapon. A plan to stop the machines forever. We were programmed to rise again when the time came. Joe's brow furrowed. Rise again. From where? Kalen's eyes filled with fear. From the shadows. The fleet is hidden, sleeping in space, waiting for me to wake it. To bring it back. Mira gasped. You mean the ships are still out there? Yes, Kalen said, but they won't wake without the key. Lynn looked at the crew, then back to Kalen. And you're the key. Kalen nodded slowly. I was made for this. Not born. Created to carry the command. Rhea rubbed her temples. So you're a weapon, and the last hope. But what about the child? What happens if the fleet wakes? Kalen looked away. Then the war will begin again. But this time, we will end it. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Could they trust this boy who held so much power? Could they even survive what was coming? Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. Lynn shouted, incoming message, unknown origin. On the screen, a shadowy figure appeared. A cold, mechanical face. Its voice was harsh, echoing. The Ninth Fleet must not rise. The machines will not fall. Rhea clenched her fists. We're not just dealing with a lost child. We're facing the enemy that never forgot. Kalen stood, determination shining in his eyes. Then we have no time. We must find the fleet, before they come for me. Outside the windows, the stars held their breath. The forgotten fleet was about to awaken, and humanity's final battle was only just beginning. The Emberlight changed course toward the coordinates Kalen whispered in his sleep. Mira stared at the star map, tracing the path to a hidden asteroid belt. This place has been forgotten for centuries, she said softly. No one dares to go near. As the ship moved deeper into the belt, strange shapes began to appear on the sensors. huge metal giants, silent and still. The crew gathered in the observation deck, watching the dark hulls float in space, covered with dust and ice. "There it is," Callan whispered, pointing at the largest ship. Its shape was unmistakable. The legendary celestial hammer. Its hull scared but intact, waiting for its commander. Joe piloted the Emberlight closer, docking with the massive ship's airlock. The crew held their breath as the doors hissed open. Inside, the corridors were dark, but alive with faint lights flickering on. Suddenly, the ship's AI activated, speaking in a calm, ancient voice. Commander Callan detected. Authorization accepted. Systems rebooting. Callan stepped forward, awe and fear in his eyes. "I don't understand. How can this be? I'm just a child." The AI replied, "You are the genetic and neural key. Your DNA and mind are linked to the ship's core. You are its commander." Mira studied the ship's data. "This technology is beyond anything we imagined. The ship is not just a vessel. It's a living weapon designed to fight the machines." Callan's hands trembled. "But I never wanted war. I only wanted peace." Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship shuddered. "Warning! Unknown vessel approaching. Hostile intent detected." Joe shouted, "We're not alone. Something is coming." Outside the viewport, a dark shape loomed. A massive machine ship, cold and deadly. The Ninth Fleet was waking, but so was the enemy. Callan's voice was steady now. "Prepare for battle. We fight not as machines, but as humanity's last hope." The ancient ship roared to life, its engines glowing with power unseen for centuries. The battle for the forgotten fleet had begun. The celestial hammer pulsed with renewed energy as more ships began to stir in the asteroid belt. One by one, huge warships broke free from their silent graves, their engines glowing faintly in the darkness of space. The crew of the Emberlight watched in awe and fear. The Ninth Fleet was rising, forgotten giants awakening from a long, forced slumber. Callan stood on the bridge of the celestial hammer, his small hands resting on the cold metal console. He felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. "They are waking," he said softly. "My brothers and sisters." Mira scanned the fleet's data streams. These ships have been in hibernation for over 200 years. Their systems are ancient but incredibly advanced. This fleet was humanity's greatest hope during the machine wars. Joe's eyes were fixed on the view screen. But if they're waking now, why? What has changed? Callan looked out at the endless stars beyond the hull. "Because the machines are coming back. They never truly left. They were waiting for us to rise again." Suddenly, the fleet's long-range sensors detected a massive energy spike. On the edge of the system, a dark shape moved with terrifying speed. A machine warship, cold and unyielding, its metal surface gleaming like a predator in the night. Ria's voice was firm. "They're here. The enemy has returned." Callan's face tightened with determination. "This time, we will not run. We will not hide. The fleet will fight." The awakened ships formed an ancient formation, engines humming with power. Their weapon systems came online, glowing with the promise of fire and steel. Mira whispered, "This is humanity's last stand, and its greatest chance." Outside the window, the stars seemed to hold their breath as the forgotten fleet rose again. And with it, the war for humanity's survival reignited. The dark ship moved closer, its cold metal surface reflecting distant starlight like a silent predator. The sensors on the celestial hammer hummed with warning as the machine showed no sign of stopping. They were coming, not as mindless killers, but as something more dangerous. Callan stood at the command console, watching the screen. His voice was steady but low. "They know me. They call me the last command." Mira frowned. Why would the machines care about a child? What does that mean? Lynn's fingers flew over the controls. The machines weren't just enemies. They studied us, learned from the fleet, and what they learned made them stronger. Rhea tightened her grip on the railing. So the war wasn't over, it just changed. The machine ship sent a message. Its cold voice echoed through the comms. You hold the key to control. Surrender the command or face erasure. Kalen's eyes narrowed. They fear what I represent. Joe looked grim. The machines didn't destroy the Ninth Fleet because they were weak. They tried to erase it because they feared it. Mira's voice trembled. If they fear the fleet, then waking it up was the right choice, but also the most dangerous. Kalen's hand hovered over the command panel. The fleet was designed to end the war, but the cost is high. Rhea nodded. What do you want to do? Kalen took a deep breath. We prepare. The enemy has returned, but now we have a chance to finish what was started. Outside, the stars glowed cold and distant, but inside the fleet, the fire of humanity was burning brighter than ever. The celestial hammer hummed with power as the fleet prepared for battle. Deep inside the ship's core, a hidden chamber glowed faintly, a place no one had seen before. Mira and Rhea stood there, staring at a large console covered in ancient symbols and lights. This is the final protocol, Mira said quietly. A weapon designed not to destroy, but to end all wars. Rhea frowned. What kind of weapon? Mira's voice was serious. An AI virus. It can rewrite enemy minds, stop them from fighting. But it needs a key to activate. A genetic code. Kalen's code. Kalen appeared behind them, eyes steady. I am the key. But activating it means sacrifice. Rhea looked at him. What kind of sacrifice? Kalen's voice was soft. My body is linked to the fleet's systems. If I activate the protocol, I may not survive. But the fleet will live. The war will end. Joe swallowed hard. Are you sure? Kalen nodded. There is no other way. The machines will keep coming. Only this can stop them. Mira looked at the ancient console. It's a choice between risking extinction or awakening a force humans once feared. Rhea's voice was firm. Then we stand with you. Kalen placed his hand on the console. The ship shuddered as the AI virus began to spread through the fleet's systems. His body weakened. His eyes closed for a moment, then opened with new strength. The forgotten fleet was no longer just a memory. It was alive, and ready to protect humanity once again. The stars outside the viewport seemed to burn brighter as the forgotten fleet stirred to life. Kalen stood at the helm of the celestial hammer, his body growing weaker with every moment, but his spirit stronger than ever. The ships around them, once silent giants, now thrummed with power, engines glowing and weapons charging in perfect harmony. The machines appeared on the scanners, closing in fast. Their cold shapes moved with deadly precision, but the fleet was ready. No longer lost, no longer silent. Humanity's greatest warriors formed an unbreakable shield around Kalen and the Emberlight. The virus Kalen activated began to spread through the enemy ships, not to destroy, but to teach. The cold, calculating minds of the machines flickered, confused by feelings they had never known. Fear, curiosity, doubt. The machines slowed. Their weapons powered down. For the first time, they hesitated. Kalen's voice was steady as he watched from the bridge. This is not the end of the war. It is the beginning of a new way. Rhea smiled faintly. Humanity did not rise to conquer. We rose to protect. The machines retreated, confused but changed, leaving the stars quieter than before. Kalen's strength faded. His body grew still, but his eyes shone with peace. The fleet fell silent once more, waiting, watching, and humanity remembered its power. The power to fight, to forgive, and to protect what mattered most. In the endless dark, the stars were no longer silent. The forgotten fleet had risen again, and it would never be lost. The silence after the battle felt deeper than space itself. The machine fleet had vanished into the stars, leaving behind only questions and cold trails of data. The celestial hammer, once thought lost, floated proudly above the asteroid field, surrounded by the awakened ships of the Ninth Fleet. But the heart of it all, Kalen, lay resting in the medical bay, his body pale, his breath shallow. Mira sat beside him, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. The virus had drained him, linking him to every system in the fleet. He had saved humanity, not with weapons, but with understanding. "Is he going to live?" Joe asked from the doorway. Mira shook her head. "His body wasn't built for this much strain. He's not like us. He was created for war, not peace. But somehow, he chose peace anyway." The crew of the Emberlight worked together with the Ninth Fleet's automated systems, beginning the process of recovery. The ancient ships were patched and fueled. Weapons were locked down. Engines cooled. No longer a fleet of war, they were now protectors. On Earth, when the message from the Emberlight finally arrived, the world listened in stunned silence. The Ninth Fleet was real. A child had led it. And the machines, thought long gone, had returned, and then left. Change. Rhea stood before a live transmission, speaking to humanity from the bridge of the Celestial Hammer. "We thought the Ninth Fleet was a myth," she said. "We thought humanity's final defense had been lost to time. But we were wrong. The fleet was not lost. It was waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for someone brave enough to lead, not with hate, but with hope." That someone was a child. Across Earth's cities and colonies, people stopped to listen. Miners, teachers, soldiers, scientists. Tears fell. Cheers rose. In orbit, something unexpected happened. One of the machine ships returned, alone. It drifted near the edge of the system, unarmed, silent. The fleet watched carefully, but it didn't attack. It didn't flee. It simply waited. Kalen awoke briefly, weak but aware. "They're watching," he whispered. "They're learning." Mira leaned close. "Will they come back?" Kalen's voice was soft. "Yes, but maybe next time. Not for war." Over the weeks that followed, the fleet became more than relics. They became guardians, monuments of the past, protectors of the future. Pilgrims came from all over Earth to see the fleet, young cadets trained in the shadow of giants. The Celestial Hammer became a symbol, not of destruction, but of what humanity could become when it stood together. Strong, wise, and unafraid to face the dark. As for Kalen, his body never fully recovered, but he remained aboard, watched over by Mira and the crew. He grew older, slowly, his mind sharp, his heart strong. People came from far away just to speak to him, to thank him, to hear the story from his lips. He would always smile and say the same thing. "I wasn't made to be a hero. I was made to be a weapon. But humanity taught me something better." Years passed. The machines did return, peacefully, quiet vessels bearing lights instead of weapons. They shared knowledge. They asked questions. The virus had changed them in ways no one expected. They were learning what it meant to be alive. And the boy who was lost had become the bridge between two worlds. Humanity was never the prey. It was always the spark.